come on, Taliesin, we're all heading to the next boss. Raid is going great tonight.
Sure thing, Evie. It's just, you know how the whole point of Shadowlands is that there's not much anima, right?
Yeah, it's because of Sire Denathrius and his drought. That's why we've got to go get him.
Yeah, I know. But you know how we spend a lot of time, like, gathering anima very slowly to upgrade our covenant and stuff?
Replenishing our zone's reserves and bringing power back to the Shadowlands, yeah.
Yeah, well, I can't help noticing that this boss that we just killed has quite a lot of anima in, like, massive building-sized vats just hanging here.
Yeah, it's all the anima Denathrius has been stealing. Come on, let's go get him.
Yeah, I will now. I was just wondering, what's going to happen to all of this anima?
Oh man, Tally, I don't know. I'm sure Redithal will have a plan for it. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm sure he does. You go on ahead, Evitel. I'll catch you up in a little bit. I just need to watch some videos for the next fight.
Tally, where are you? We're a healer down and it's horrible.
Oh, hi, Evie. Yeah, I'm just back at my Covenant Sanctum. I had some modifications I needed to make.
Are you coming back to raid?
Probably not tonight, no. Rendell, be careful where you're putting that gold-plated anima conductor.
Knowledge is power.
Hello Internet, Taliesin here, and welcome to another episode of the weekly reset, Taliesin and Evitel's Wondrous Wisdomshow. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, that's weird. Wasn't really expecting a weekly reset this week, to be totally honest. After all, we are well and truly into the waiting for Blizzconline announcements part of the opening patch now, right? How much is there, really, to talk about? But you're wrong, because there's lots to talk about. And speaking of Blizzconline, as this episode was in production and nearing its finish, we had a full-on trailer and merchandise and almost schedule drop in a blue post. And thanks to the magic of our slow editing, we are able to insert this news into this episode here because, yes, the trailer got me a lot more excited than I was expecting. And how could it not? It's got emotional, triumphant, euphoric drums and choral singing, and it just makes me think, oh, BlizzCon! Even if I think we can all agree the WoW Q&A can never hit the same heights it did in 2019. And yes, for us WoW players, by far the most important part of this entire trailer is that split-second clip of someone designing the Wandering Ancient tree mount that all the cool kids voted for to be included in this expansion. Here is the concept art. Here is what looks like a wireframe. I guess this is what we can expect. And yes, that'll do very nicely, thank you. We need more mounts that have absolutely zero chance of fitting through doorways or even gates or exterior archways, and this looks like it fits the bill nicely. And speaking of mounts, the Blizzard 30-year anniversary merchandise items also hit the store, including a Snowstorm bear, which has made everyone stop and think, ooh, does this mean the next Shadowlands patch is going to be an ice zone? Like undeady Ice Crown ice stuff? And I mean, yes, it could do. I'm totally not saying it won't, okay? It's probably also right and proper to point out that this is clearly an homage to the very first BlizzCon Warcraft mount, the Blizzard Bear, because, you know, Blizzard Bear, Snowstorm Bear, Blizzard, Snowstorm. Yeah, I know, it's like the Da Vinci Code, but I think we got there in the end. There's also what's called a Moon-Touched Netherwhelp pet, which can't be used in Classic WoW, obviously, but which pretty much everyone has agreed is a nod to what you'd imagine is the pretty much guaranteed Burning Crusade Classic announcement during the event. And Moon-Touched because, oh, I don't know, a loon? Patch 9.1 is the fury of a loon with an Aloon raid? It's possible we're reading a bit much into the pets, but what definitely sucks is that the Snowstorm Bear in particular is only available as part of wider, not exactly cheap purchasing packages, including items across all Blizzard games. So if you're not really into your Hearthstone card backs or Overwatch sprays, and goodness knows I'm not, then this is one pricey, spiky bear, even if it does have the most adorable mount special. Oh, I love you, Blizzard Bear. I mean, Snowstorm Bear. Probably the most exciting part of this Blue Post announcement for me, though, is the Blue Post itself, which reveals that after the initial opening ceremony, where the big announcements are made, there will be 6 different channels, with each being dedicated to a specific game. So you can tune in to the WoW channel and just have a wonderful time watching Christy Golden and Terran Gregory or tree designing men or whatever, and not have to hear a single thing about Diablo Immortal if that's your bag. And this might be presumptuous on my part, but you're watching a WoW news show right now. I imagine it is at least partially your your bag. And that's what we currently know about Blizzconline. This is future Taliesin handing back to past Taliesin in the studio. There's lots to talk about, okay, including this week Torghast and the Twisting Corridors, which isn't everyone's cup of tea, but is an ongoing project for many people, but not for me. And that pause I put in there just then was a test, because I know that by putting that pause in there, it's given you time to think about what I was going to say next. And I know that half of you will think I was going to say, but not for me, because I totally completed the Twisting Corridors and now spend my days gallivanting around the moor, swift as the wind, gaily dancing through fields of bone, and also the moor, which I can now mount in thanks to the fact that, as I just mentioned, I have completed the Twisting Corridors. And the other half of you will think I was going to say, but not for me, because I totally gave up on the Twisting Corridors after getting absolutely flattened by the level 12 boss at layer 4, wasting 2 hours of my life and making me hate myself and everyone else who has ever been born, but mostly Ian Hazakostis, that guy most of all. I never even wanted the stupid mount anyway, with the stupid wonky gas knees, bunch of try-hard Twisting Corridors completing losers. And that's the test, so come on, admit it. Which did you think I was going to say? If you predicted that I had given up on the Twisting Corridors in a little bit of a strop, never to enter again, or maybe to enter again in like 2 patches or whatever when I outgear by a few hundred item levels, then congratulations, because you are wrong, oh ye of little faith. Of course I completed the Twisting Corridors, because I am an absolute baller, and also because I did it in a group of other players who were all quite good, but mostly because I am a baller, and yes, I have the try-hard mount, and yes, it's wonderful to jaunt around the moor like I'm on a jolly every time I need to get my 15 souls every week, which is honestly the only time I actually go into the moor, because I'm not an idiot, and so shame on you if you failed my test and thought I hadn't done it. Shame on you, because you totally underestimated my ability and my tenacious desire to win, and also the people that I grouped up with. Overall, I really enjoyed the experience, and I'm not even too much dreading doing it all over again on my NA account. I'm actually quite looking forward to it. So Twisting Corridors gets a tentative thumbs up from me. Tentative because I don't really know how much Blizz can iterate on it. Like, I don't want another Twisting Corridors in 9.1 or 9.2 with another 8 layers, and no, I don't care how nice the mount is at the end of it. I feel Shadowlands has kind of blown its Torghast as Mage Tower load now, and you can't really just repeat that trick every patch. But the most obvious iteration would be, I guess, to just add extra layers on top of the existing Twisting Corridors, like they presumably are going to add extra layers to the current Torghast wings. So patch 9.1 would see Torghast extend to a maximum layer 16 or such like, with the extra soul ash that they give being very handy for upgrading your legendaries to the new rank 8. And with the Twisting Corridors likewise likely having those extra layers added on top too, is that something that's going to make people happy, or is that going to make players cry themselves to sleep? It's fair to say that reaction to Torghast has been mixed among the player base, with criticism ranging from how long it takes to complete a wing to how alt-unfriendly it is. The length thing is something I generally agree with. I've said before on this show that if I had my way, Torghast wings would be 4 floors long. But the time it takes to get through is relative and does improve as you gear up throughout the patch, as you'll have noticed if you've been playing regularly, and which has been proven by the new breed of Torghast Speedrunners that were recently highlighted by Wowhead, and the frankly outrageous times that they've been completing runs in. As Wowhead describe it, link in the description below, the big boys for speedrunning are, it won't surprise you to learn, demon hunters and hunters, and mostly involve just running to the end of the floor as quickly as possible, burning down the boss, and moving on. Now, it's possible to do crazy fast runs with loads of different classes, including a priest melee build that has apparently finished in around 5 minutes. But yeah, Fell Rush, especially on a 3-second cooldown like some anima powers give you, Shadow Meld, Camouflage, and Feign Death are all pretty useful tools in that tactic, as is the Cracked Radinox Control Gem, a 3-charge item dropped by rare elites in the Antoran Wastes. Yes, Legion content, Antoran Wastes, to rocket propel you to the end, or at least that used to be the meta tactic 3 whole days ago when Wowhead did their article, and top spot was held by Demon Hunter Smalldoe, but that was 3 days ago, and at the time of writing, he sits in 4th place, with the current fastest time being undead rogue Kiba, who just sneak through every floor, even has time to die and break some pots on the way, and finishes the layer in 4 minutes and 21 seconds. That time will also be beaten. What I'm saying is, it's possible to get your Torghast wings done pretty quickly once you reach a certain point. And also, I love speedrunning and I am totally here for it. And that alt unfriendliness got a big fix this week too, with Blizz making layer progress in standard Torghast wings account wide, meaning that if you've done a layer 8 on one character, you now don't have to start on layer 1 and work your way up, layer by soul crushing individual layer on every other character you play. You can hit 60 on a new toon and dive straight into layer 8 to get completely demolished instead. Freedom! But seriously, this is an obvious and very sensible change. So obvious and sensible, in fact, that I think most of us were expecting that Blizz would wait until the very end of the expansion to implement it. To our cynical old eyes, making Torghast progress account-wide has got flagship feature of patch 9.2 or 9.3 written all over it. So as well as making everyone's lives a whole lot more pleasant, it's also just a lovely surprise that this change has come so quickly. Good work, Blizz! Take the afternoon off! Take an hour off. And it makes me think, if Blizz can implement this obvious and sensible change so soon into an expansion, what other changes could they, or more accurately, should they, give us that are as obvious and sensible that we'd usually expect to arrive much later in the expansion lifecycle? How about disenchanting legendaries? By now, most of us have a collection of legendaries of differing powers, ranks, and gear slots knocking around in our bags. And this is not a scientific analysis by any means, but I would not be surprised if most of us have at least one which is basically redundant at this stage. Maybe it's just in a gear slot that you regret choosing, or maybe you put secondary stat missives in it which you'd now choose differently. Whatever. It would certainly be nice, wouldn't it, to have the option to break down those unwanted legendaries for Soul Ash. Like, not necessarily for the same amount of Soul Ash that you put into it, maybe the equivalent of a rank lower or something. And those base items still cost a hefty amount of gold for most players, so it's not like crafting a legendary isn't still a major investment anyway. I just think it's something we can all agree would be a good idea, and which most of us suspect Blizz will introduce at some point. But Blizz, you did such a good job with the Torghast unlocking this week. How about we don't hang around until 9.3 to make the legendary thing happen? Plus, think of the cool smashing up an old legendary to make Soul Ash cutscene that you could make for the Primus, the Rune Carver. It would be A. And also, how about some kind of Venari catch-up? I mean about the Maw and Venari, and it is true that I spend absolutely the bare minimum amount of time in the Maw that I have to, because I don't really care about making Venari like me, even though I am totally in love with her. I just don't care too much about grinding gem slots for my gear, because I'm a terrible scrub player, and my punishment for that is that I quite rightly don't get invited to host the MDI. My reward for that, though, is that I'm pretty sure I enjoy the game and my life a lot more than people who do have to grind endless gem slots for their gear. And I do enjoy them more when I go there too, honestly, probably because it's my choice when I do. And I have naturally built up my reputation with Venari as a result, and unlocked loads of cool things. On my main. On my alts, nothing. Nada. I'd be surprised if they even remember Venari's name. And I don't think we need Venari rep to be account-wide, but maybe some kind of account-bound rep token that gets unlocked when you hit Exalted, or piece of shit on the bottom of my shoe, or whatever it is she calls it, which Exalted, or not quite hated characters, can buy with Stygia and mail to their alts just to help them along the way. Blizz have done this kind of thing before. They'll probably end up doing it with Venari, and the more, why not do it now? And how about gear? Much has been made about the low levels of gear dropping in Shadowlands PvE content. It's not uncommon for players to do whole, complete runs of Castle Nathria without a single item dropping at all, let alone that piece being an upgrade. And Mythic Plus has pretty much been replaced by rated PvP as the most efficient way to gear up for most players. And firstly, by the way, I'm okay with that. Gear amounts are subjective, and I know most people will disagree with me, and that's okay. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that I really like the pace of gearing in 9.0. It just hits the absolute right notes for me. I like that I know exactly which pieces I need to upgrade and exactly which bosses drop them. I like how I am mixing up the places I'm getting my gear from a lot more in Shadowlands. I like that I have jumped into PvP to get the trinkets that I raid with, and while I was there I got some shoulders because mine was sub 200 item level on my main, but we don't have to talk about that. That is exactly what loads of people hate about it, and that's fine. I'm just saying that I find that kind of thing really rewarding. But it is very likely that at some point in this expansion, Blizzard are going to change that up, and it's very likely that we are going to see something to make gearing more plentiful, whether that be just more loot dropping, or the return of reroll tokens, I hope not, or some kind of upgrade badge currency for PvE, I also hope not, or whatever. It's going to happen, but will it happen at the end of the expansion, or will Blizz, inspired by their big impulsive decisive Torghast unlock, bring it in as early as next patch? I think it would make a lot of people happy. Ooh, and how about, just as a bonus extra at the end of this segment, class tier sets. Blizz have said that they will be making a return this expansion. Could they be something which might appear crowd-pleasingly early too? Actually, I think maybe. Yeah. Why not? And like most people, I would be totally behind tier sets with 2- and 4-piece set bonuses being reintroduced as early as possible. So next raid, please. Although I've got this tiny little voice in my head that tells me they won't quite be what people are expecting. Because we all know what I mean by tier sets, don't we? A unique armor set for each individual class in the game, with 2 and 4 set bonuses for every individual spec in the game, just like the good old days. But that little voice keeps telling me, you know, Taliesin, I think that's a big ask for devs who basically said that they are a bit burned out on that level of tier set design, and I can't help but think that instead, we might get Covenant tier sets, with a unique armor set for each Covenant, maybe one for each armor type, or maybe just universal, with set bonuses that affect your Covenant ability, either the class specific one, or, you know, maybe not, maybe just the universal standard Covenant ability. Would that be acceptable? Would the player base be okay with that, or would they feel cheated and outraged? I mean, they'd definitely feel cheated and outraged, obviously, but would they also essentially be okay with it? That does happen. Only one way to find out! Give us those tier sets next raid, Blizz. Let's find out.
Oh, you want me to do a bit this week? Sorry, I just wasn't expecting to, since, you know, there really hasn't been all that much exciting news going down.
Well, except, of course, for the amazing Blizzconline reveal news. Oh, we've already done that bit, haven't we? Sorry, carry on.
This week sees a whole bunch of class changes being rolled out in the form of buffs, and that is good news because everyone loves buffs. We can play our happy music, as opposed to the sad music we play for nerfs. Tragic, tragic nerfs. Frost Death Knights, Havoc Demon Hunters, Beast Mastery and Survival Hunters, Frost Mages, Assassination Rogues, Enhancement Shaman, Destruction Warlock, Arms, and Fury Warriors are all getting flat damage increases of between 3 and 5% across the board. Didn't see your class in that list? Well, that's because your class is already perfect and doesn't need any tuning, of course. And now these classes are perfect too, something that pleased everyone on the forums, where players were super excited to swap their shaman to enhancement and finally play their favorite spec in top tier content, and the air was alive with the busy chatter of marksmanship hunters swapping their bows out for staves and mages respecing to frost, and no, it was a shit show. Obviously.
Does anyone at Blizz even know what's going on with their own game? It never gets better. Got to love how Blizzard have thrown the entire warrior class into the trash. What the fuck? Learn to make priority and stop coating fat turkey throat with more fat.
Yeah, Blizz. Stop putting more fat on the turkey throat. There's enough fat on the turkey throat now, Blizz. Any idiot can see that. The truth is, of course, that these changes aren't going to change the meta or even stop these classes being bottom of the pile in most cases. The reason these classes aren't generally chosen in Castle Nathria, for example, has much more to do with the way their abilities interact, or don't, with the mechanics of the specific fights, and a minuscule upwards numbers tuning isn't going to change that. This really is just to make life slightly more bearable for those those players that like the specs and play them whatever the meta. And there's nothing wrong with that, necessarily, even if the buffs are still way too small and the turkey throat way too fat. Happier news! This last week, those keeping up with their Covenant renown unlocked access to unique battle pets. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Evitel! I don't have time or anima to waste on battle pets. I'm a grade A, 9-carat, hardcore mythic progression, key-pushing uber baller, and the only time I ever see anima is when it drops from cutting-edge Denathrius or in the chest at the end of a plus 24, so no, I don't have 1500 anima to spend on a battle pet, thank you very much. And that's totally fair. But can I just point out, Sinheart the Venthyr pet is a mossy gravestone. Okay, fine. Sinstone, with adorable arms and legs. And when you mount up, Sinheart mounts up on a bat and sometimes gives you an inner peace buff for no real reason? Oh, you're still thinking about Mythic Denathrius, aren't you? Okay, well, how about Jiggles, the Necrolord slime kitty, which, well, it's a slime kitty, which would be good enough anyway, but Jiggles will sit in your lap and play with other toys, and also will sometimes run off and come back with a slime gift for you. Thanks, Jiggles. And sometimes will rub up against your character and give you the covered in slime debuff, which is definitely the most adorable debuff in the game. Oh, you're still thinking about pushing that plus 24 key, aren't you? Okay, well, may I draw your attention to Ruffle, the Kyrian owlkin pet who is already perfect, but becomes even more perfect when you mount up, when he also mounts up on his equally adorable tiny Larian, meaning that you and Ruffles can ride around together on matching Larians, being like Larian twins, and defeating anything the Shadowlands has to throw at you with the power of friendship and massive, beautiful eyes. As long as what the Shadowlands mostly throws at you is pet battles, obviously. Look, if Ruffles doesn't do it for you, honestly, I don't know what will. Sorry.
Medivh? What are you doing here?
Listen, I bought this before, I think like BlizzCon 2018.
Did you buy it specifically for BlizzCon?
Yeah, and I brought it with me because I thought, you know what, this would look really cute with like a little cocktail dress.
Because we were filming the intro to this week's Weekly Reset, and I was like, okay, have you got any like fur coats? And Evie was like, no, obviously not. And I was like, okay, but you need to make me look pimpin'. What have you got? And she's like, well, I've got this Medivh. I thought it was just something.
It's a cape. It's a cape.
Okay, you should wear it to this year's BlizzConline.
I will.
It looks really good on you.
Thanks,
Fair play.
I love it.
Like, yeah.
I love it.
I can see why you didn't want to wear it when you were pregnant
Biba.
last BlizzCon, because you looked a bit like a boomkin.
Yeah.
But no, there's just not much news or drama. Preacher's Guild has disbanded.
Oh.
Like, what's going on?
Hey, we've got a guild. We have a very good guild.
You say we've got a guild. It might only be me that's got a guild quite soon, because we did an entire raid night last night and we were progressing Stone Legion Generals, which, by the way, is horrible. Never do it. Worst boss fight in the world. And you know, we were gradually just eking out a little bit more percent every single time, and we were having a really, really good pull. It was actually the pull before we killed it in the end, and we were having a really good pull, and then suddenly these blades just went off in the group and everyone died. And we were like, oh no, that was so frustrating because we were doing so well. And Evie was like, sorry everyone, my bad, I don't know what happened there, sorry, I just, whatever. And as we were walking back to take our places to puddle again, Evie like whispered me and she's like, I've just realised, for some reason I don't have DBM installed today.
It just wasn't there, it just suddenly wasn't in my add-ons.
But I love how you went through an entire raid night without knowing, and without noticing that there was no ba-ba-ba happening. It was just like,
exactly.
What?
Well, I always turn the ba-ba-ba off anyway, because, you know, it scares me. I don't think anyone from our guild is watching this, so I think...
To get some... Yeah, no, famously they don't watch our show. Preach, just saying, there's space for you in Immortalis. Progress into Denathrius.
You don't even need DBM.
No. Yeah, no, you do, mate.
You
It's required,
yeah.
okay? And voodoo. You know, you have to make a formal application and go through the interview process, but I'll put in a good word for you, Preach, is what I'm saying. Yeah. I'll put in a good word for you. But to the announcement, which we've already made to patrons.
Yes, so I have left my job. My job is now in the past.
The last, I want to say 2 years, you have been working 4 days a week at your IRL job, and 1 day a week on the channel officially.
Yeah.
So you've always been working for the channel.
Yeah.
And then when the channel went professional, I went full time on it. No, I know.
Yeah.
I went full time on it, and you were just doing 1 day a week.
Yeah.
However, now you've, of your own accord, it has to be said, left your IRL job.
I did. Sorry.
the one that gave you much pleasure and prestige, by the way.
Yeah. Which I will obviously miss like loads in a lot of ways, but
and that means that
I am now doing this full time.
Now you're full-time on the channel.
Whatever this is.
Yeah, so there's going to be Evitel streams on the T&E stream channel.
This is what you can expect. I'm going to have my own space because we're going to set me up downstairs in the living room. And it's really cozy. There's like a bookcase and a fireplace.
On this PC.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be using this
I need to
PC.
build my new PC, and all the bits are there. I've got every single bit now. It's going to be brilliant.
Yeah.
And there'll be like probably not twice as much T&E, but there'll be a significant more amount of T&E.
Yeah, and I like to think that I might have like my own dedicated slot, like on a morning at some point.
I like that. And
just...
also, we're going to at least 3 days a week do a T&E morning WoW news stream as well, where one of us plays and the other one catches up with the news of the day, and that'll be like a joint stream that we do.
It'll be fun.
More news on that, when we've built the new PC. Oh, do you know what we should do on stream? We should do a live watching party of Blizzconline.
We definitely should do that. Yeah.
Book your tickets with us. You don't need tickets, you just need to come along.
You just need to show up.
It'll be good.
It'll be fun.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for the Weekly Reset. We are working on lots of videos at the moment, including the Covenant Ranked video, which will come out this week at some point.
Will it now?
Yes, it will. But thank you for joining us for this video. If you enjoyed it, don't thank us. Thank our patrons who make all of our work possible by giving us their actual real life money. I know we need more of it now, don't we?
Oh well, that's the thing. We couldn't actually I couldn't, jump on the T&E train. So that's my metaphors there.
Have you told your parents yet?
I have.
You have? What did they say?
Yeah. They're excited.
Did they say anything, or did they just hang up?
They're very excited.
Like when you told them you were dating an actor that time.
Yeah.
What did your mum say? Be careful around British actors because they drink too much.
Something like that. I mean, it's not a lie.
What can I say? Mums are always right. If you didn't like it, downvote the shit out of it. Remember, my name is Preach Gaming of the Guild Immortalis Argent Dawn EU.
Your hair transplant looks good.
I was hoping for better, to be honest. They missed a bit at the back. No, my name is Taliesin from me.
And me, Evitel.
And Iron too. Until next time, cheerio.